Welcome back to our riveting discussion on age gap
Deal breakers.
showstoppers. And yesterday we left off on children. I want a child, she doesn't want a child, or
He wants a child, she can't give him one.
we moved on from that now to something else. But before we do that, remember, if you're new here, welcome. Glad to have you. Hit the subscribe button, and we are happy to have you in the neighborhood.
Like.
Remember to like the video and share with somebody who you think needs to hear it.
Yeah.
So again, I'm Paul, she's Tina. 12-year age gap. We have 5 girls, 2 sets of twins, and a teenager. That is our
bio in a sentence.
Bio, right. We are Christians at our roots, and what we have to say is based and centered, drenched in Christ and our
Beliefs.
view.
Yeah.
Right.
Our worldview,
Worldview is
Christian.
Beliefs, right.
Yes. So, as you guys know, we are touching on this whole issue about what are some of those things that can make or break a relationship, that can make the difference between you living happily ever after or happily never after marriage. Yeah. You look impressed.
That was alright. I come up with better stuff than that, but it's alright. It's alright. It's her. With that said, the first we're going to tackle this session is disapproving family members and close, those best friends, those close friends. What's the first way we want to look at this now?
Well, first, I think that when we talk about disapproving family members, there are certain family members or friend groups that are especially problematic. And I'm going to say problematic because that's what the situation is. When you have an age gap couple and you have one partner who is significantly older, who may have already had children, whose children may be grown.
Right.
If there is a significant age gap, that older child or those older children may have a problem with a potential stepmother or a stepfather who is their own age or close to their age.
That is a big issue.
Yes.
So in our case, Hannah is much younger than I am.
Yes.
So it didn't come up for us. It wasn't something that we had to, deal with.
Even though he looks young and they have sometimes been asked if they're brother and sister.
Right, but
in reality, no, they're not close in age at all.
We have seen where there are particularly men who are older and they have
bring home the
new hot girl,
hot young thing
that is their daughter's age.
Yeah, or the son's age.
Right. And we can see that being a problem. How so though?
Because the family member, the children might not be accepting of the relationship. And it also applies where you have a parent who is not accepting of the relationship, especially where you have the man being younger than the woman, mothers in particular. And you can't tell me, say this is not true, because me go through this said speed. The mothers, at least initially, may not want for her son an older woman because of the perceptions and the stereotypes that we talked about in an earlier video, that these things are projected onto age gap couples. The perceptions and the assumptions about younger men are projected onto the younger man in the relationship. And the same goes for the older woman in the relationship. Perceptions about being manipulative and dominating and, being his mommy. It's projected onto a woman who is older, especially if there's a fair age gap between them. And she is obviously older.
It almost puts the partner in a position where they have to choose between pleasing the family member or sticking to your spouse.
Right.
So do I make my child happy and cut off my newfound hot girl that is so much younger than I am because my daughter can't deal with it? Or do I say, no, man, you need to just learn to work with it because I love this woman, you need to be happy for me?
Or in the case of the younger man and his parents, in particular his mother, we're going to say parents because we know this applies. We know fathers also feel strongly about this too, based on the example that we gave in our previous video. I want to maintain a relationship with my parents as long as they are alive. Do I put this relationship before my parental relationship and risk disharmony between me and my parents? Especially if you're dependent to a certain degree on your parents. If then again, do you really want to get in a relationship with somebody who is that dependent on their parents that they cannot leave and cleave?
True. It's a different topic, though.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, it may manifest in different ways. And when I say it, I mean the way that the family member responds. So you will notice certain things. It may be obvious as, a child rebelling or a parent moving in a different way. But do you know that there are people who remain silent? It just never comes up.
Yes.
And
yes, but they hold this resentment.
Right, or you assume because you're like, so you don't see what's going on here, you don't have any questions, you don't have anything to add or subtract. You've never spoken about this.
Yes.
Ever. It's just a thing, never tackled the face on, and that can weigh on your mind as well because you're like,
how do they really feel about this?
Right.
Are they truly accepting of my spouse?
Or are they being judgmental?
Yeah, is there something running below the surface that we're not tackling and it's going to result in a breakdown of the relationship that I have with my family member? And sometimes it comes as outright disapproval, rejection, ostracization, all of those things that we fear and we hate.
Right. What is the deal breaker exactly? The deal breaker to me here would be family or the relationship.
In our case, we're gonna be real. In our case, it was a big issue for you whether or not to pursue a relationship with me because you were wondering, what is my mother going to think?
Right. So even for them to meet was very delayed.
Yeah, he kept putting it off.
Really, because I was consumed with you played out different scenarios. You're like, all right, nah, let's not do that right now.
I kept saying, when am I going to meet your mother? What are you waiting for?
Because her mother knew me from church.
Right. So in my case, Paul basically kind of transitioned from friend to boyfriend, right? And my family members, that is my mother and my child, already knew him before he was my boyfriend. We attended the same church. We were involved in ministry together. And even though it's not like you used to come to my house and visit me before we got together, when he did start to kind of come and visit me, at the time I was living with my mother. So when he did start to kind of come over, and it wasn't something that I felt like I needed to really explain.
And sit down and
right, Paul is my friend. Paul is coming over. It's kind of obvious,
right,
that our relationship is developing. But it is different when your family member does not know.
They're removed from the situation.
They're removed from the situation, and you have to make an introduction. How do you overcome that? Yes, or how do you get past it? For some people, they might know the position of their parents in particular, knowing that they're not going to approve, or they might think they do, not going to approve of this.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough. It's tough. But what I can say is, this will be a common thread in whatever we say, you have to be prayerful about everything. Today, Tina and I mean, remember first of all that your family is your family, and their motivation 9 out of 10 times will be out of love
Yes, to protect you.
and out of protection for you.
Yes.
So assume positive intent, as somebody always tells me. Assume positive intent. Don't assume that they are just, we can't take everything we try, them just, want to break down, them don't trust me and all that. No. Assume that they are looking out for your best interest. With that said, you would then need to see how you can kind of, allow things to slowly come together. I would advise not to force anything.
Right.
And let things naturally progress. And I mean, today, even in my great apprehension, in the initial stages, today, Tina and my mom are just as close as I am with my mom. And at times, I think Tina and my mom are closer than how I am with my mom because of how their relationship has just gradually grown and just become tight.
And that's because we've gotten to know each other. Even we ourselves have assumptions about persons in age gap relationships. So understandably, our family members are likely to also carry these assumptions. And just as how it took time for us to get to know each other and to break through and break down those assumptions and question those assumptions, it's important for us to give our family members
The time
to
True.
Also break down their assumptions.
That's a very good point.
And that comes by allowing them to get to know your spouse.
That's a very good point, babe.
Thank you, dear. So, even though this one can be a deal breaker, it doesn't need to be. Maybe you should share this video and share our How We Met series with your family member and see
if you add some perspective.
If you can add some perspective, especially the video on how big is too big.
Right. Next up, when the woman makes more money. So I have an older woman who is settled in her career, senior manager in a multinational corporation, drawing down millions, getting paid in US dollars, and you are just starting your career at an entry-level position because you just finished college, and she's making 5 times your salary.
Wow, that was very specific scenario there.
Right. That's not our story, but
no.
The point is there are times where Tina makes more money than I do. I mean, if my own job ping, hers job, even though her income may be seasonal in that she's contracted from different times to over different periods, it is potentially, or it can potentially be a problem where people align financial power to the rule in the house, the household, right?
Yes. So basically, in other words, whoever is making the most money
Makes the decisions,
is calling
the shots.
Right. Yeah.
And
Whoever is bringing in the dough wears the pants.
But women wear pants too. Right? But you get what you're saying. It can play. For example, look at this scenario. You have a younger man who hasn't finished college. They're in a relationship, and she's paying his school fee.
Yeah.
And she's paying the water bill, the light bill, all these bills. It can be a problem.
And it can be a problem for both partners. So it can be a problem for the man because if the woman is making more money than him, he's questioning if he is really providing, if he is really, in that provider role, acting as he ought to be.
Because that should come naturally for a man.
Right, a man is naturally going to feel like he ought to provide. He needs to be the provider, the breadwinner. And so it's going to play on his ego. And a woman also wanting to feel like she's being taken care of is going to have that innate desire for her husband to to take care of her, to be earning more money and bringing in enough money to be able to look after the needs of the family. So it doesn't automatically play out that way, but it can because of tradition. It can be a problem because of how we are raised to think about male and female roles in a domestic situation.
And money on a whole in any relationship, I mean, this is whether parent and child, friends, partners, it is a big deal.
Big deal.
Right? So,
Big deal.
I think, I mean, what we have done is we said, all right, money can be a problem. Let it not be a problem because whatever we make together. So,
Right. We have managed to find a way
Right.
to make it so that money is not a problem, right? And it was important for me to ensure that Paul felt that he was a leader in our home. He was the leader in our marriage, in our home. And part of ensuring that he felt comfortable in his role as the head of the household was to ensure that he was managing things financially. My role is to support him, but his role is really to be that person who is leading. And in his leadership, and also because of his practical experience, he takes that role on fully, right? But women sometimes have a problem. If they're earning more money, if you're earning more money and your partner is not earning as much as you, and it is just a fact, you're just at two different stages in your career, or you are just in two different fields, and she is in a field that is making more money and you are not in a field that is making more money. I mean, how do you just let the relationship go because you can't get over the fact that your woman is making more money than you?
I mean, to be honest, the fact that you're in an age gap relationship, you're already in a scenario that is not typical. Especially if you're an older woman, let's say more than 10 years. Approach it from that aspect, in the sense that, listen, there's nothing traditional about us, just from the fact that we have this big age difference. Let's not tackle things in a traditional way. Let's just not be bound.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. Let's not be bound by the way things we were grown.
Yeah.
We were grown to see, okay, the man come home from work at 5 o'clock. Here's your dinner, honey. And, that kind of
so
thing.
it's an opportunity to push through the norms that we have become accustomed to.
Right. And it's an opportunity to become innovative in how we approach and tackle things.
Yeah.
As a couple. That's all.
Yes. But
so let's not call them deal breakers. We could call them moments of opportunities.
I suppose we could, but for some people
it will just be the end of the road.
It can just be the end of the road. It's something to consider. If is this for you?
Right.
Is this whole scenario for you? Can you look past it? Can you work through it?
Okay. And we'll come to the final point after we pay some bills. Final point to consider as a deal breaker is being at different stages in life.
Yeah. And why is this a problem?
It can be a problem, and I mean, we could look at it in 3 different scenarios or 3 different categories. Financially, where we just basically, beat that one all over the place with our discussions about.
Yeah, we've already talked about being at 2 different stages financially. Right. Him making less money than her.
Right.
But there can also be, and we also touched on earlier, the couple being at different stages, literally in terms of age. A man, in the case of the younger man, older woman, him being younger, her being older, you may be in a situation where your partner may be facing health challenges as a result of being older.
Right. Something that just comes with age.
Something that just comes with age that you can't do anything about. Or you might be in a situation where the woman is a little bit older and she has completed her education. The man might be a little bit behind because he is younger and he has intentions of completing his education, and so it becomes a challenge to move together.
Right.
Because
you may feel like one is pulling the other.
Right. A woman may be building her career while her partner is just starting his. She may have completed up to postgraduate education, and he's just getting started with university.
Right.
Also, being at different stages in life might mean that even though you have a connection with the person, even though you are able to relate on a certain level, one partner may feel like, I want to go out, I want to be with my friends, I want to travel, I want to see the world, I want to live in an apartment because I don't, or a condo because I don't want the trouble of having to maintain a property. I'll be fine with paying rent. And the other partner, being at a different stage in life, may be like, oh, travel is too much of a hassle. I've already been there, done that. Or I want a house, I want to settle down now. I want a yard for the children to play in. It's not conducive to family life to be living in an apartment or a condo where you don't have, so all of those different things might play into how two people get along.
I know what I think it comes down to, or what is a big risk factor in this. When the younger partner starts to learn more about themselves. So maybe the person believes that they are what they are now at this stage.
Yes.
And in 5 years' time, they may be just at the stage where their friends are doing certain things, so they want to do certain things with their friends. So they want to be drinking after work and to be hanging out
with friends. Yes.
And so as that partner learns more about themselves and learns their friends, grow together, they may be drawn to different things than where they were at when it started that relationship. And that is a serious thing to face. How can you know? You can't know.
No, you can't know.
It's something that just unfolds.
It does. But at the end of it all, you have to determine if you are truly compatible and what is truly important, and making those compromises. If you're at vastly different stages and you're foreseeing yourself at being at this stage for a while, don't expect the other person to change. Right? If the man is deciding that this is where he is right now, he needs to accomplish this. This is where he will be for the next few years, 5 years of his life. If you can't afford to wait, then it might be a deal breaker for you.
Right.
I have received messages from women who say that they are ahead in their careers, doing what they want to do professionally, but the person who they're in a relationship with, the man that they're in a relationship with, the younger man, is just beginning to get his career started, and he wants to go back to school.
Right.
and it's a problem, and he will be on that track for some time, but the woman is thinking that she has a family to start. She wants to get on with marriage and family and that kind of life, and the partner is just not there yet. The question of whether or not you're willing to wait will break the deal.
True. Very true. And I think from these discussions over the past 2 days, there are just a couple of things that we can see as takeaways.
Yeah. So I think the bottom line and the takeaway is that being in love, having just having those feelings, it's not the only thing that's important in a relationship, and in an age gap relationship in particular. There are some very real things to consider where rubber hits road, and you have to decide if you can overcome this or not, because it's going to make the difference between pursuing this relationship or breaking off the relationship.
And it would lead to the second takeaway, which is, if you are seeing these red flags, these concerns, don't just keep it within yourself.
Don't ignore it.
Don't ignore it. Confront it and get help. So speak about it with your partner and seek out help from counseling psychologists who can assist you through, different remedies. And for our case, we did premarital counseling. So even though we had discussions before about finances and chores and all these things, it brings it up in a structured way where you can properly ventilate these concerns.
Interestingly, many of the issues that came up for us had nothing to do with our age gap.
No. It was just regular relationship problems.
They were just regular relationship problems. The age gap issue, we spent literally a few minutes out of one session of like 10 discussing the whole issue of our age gap. And it was really to do with, what was it?
I don't remember.
The fertility. And it was really to do with the fertility issue.
Okay.
And, counsel asked a few questions. We already had our answer prepared because we had thought through this thing. And so it was just like, okay, moving on.
Yeah. So here we are, almost 5 years later.
Yes.
By the grace of God.
Amen.
And we pray that through our discussions that you will be able to make the right decision with God as your guide.
Yes.
So surrender your decision to Him and He will direct your path. Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding in all your ways, even in this, especially in this. Acknowledge Him and He will direct your path. So see you then, see you tomorrow. And until then, take care and big up from me and my host. Bye.